number of people coming out taking an interest in. I'm sure it can't be me and figs. It's Peter Bevan who later speaks, all about these things and growing things and so on. But I'm 1 week to finish with the Chamber of Commerce because I'm going full time in the figgery, as we call it, although people tend to give it other names, as you can imagine. And figs are a wonderful crop because we. All of you know something about fig trees because you either have them in your garden or your father or your grandfather had them and so on, because they do exist all over Hawke's Bay, and we've just got such a wonderful climate generally, and it's a wonderful climate for growing what is a Mediterranean type product. When I was in Sydney, when we were in Sydney, we lived in the Italian area, those of you know Sydney, called Leichhardt, which is full of restaurants and the Italian folk and Greeks and so on, and figs are so much part of their culture. And we came back to New Zealand and looked around where to stay because we're originally from Dunedin. And one thing you know about Dunedin, figs will never grow in Dunedin. It is the Riviera of the Antarctic Dunedin, but it isn't the place for figs. And it wasn't the reason why we came to Hawke's Bay. We just came here and we just met such lovely people and it's such a lovely climate, and we go, even though we're not from here, it's just such a great place. And we bought this old orchard. It was a summer fruit orchard. We still have summer fruit. And we said, well, where do you buy figs? And people said, yeah, well, we know one. There's one down the road somewhere. There's a tree, go and help yourself. But of course the birds had already done it. They've helped themselves. And we said, well, you grow grapes, you grow olives. The trifecta is figs in terms of the Mediterranean climate, and why weren't people commercially growing figs? And there's a whole variety of reasons, but most people have forgotten about them, and they didn't know what to do with them. We have people now coming up and say, well, do you eat them fresh? And then they say, do you skin them? And we're thinking, what a funny question. Of course you eat them fresh, and of course you eat them with skin, but hey, that's up to you what to do with a fig. And it's a very versatile crop, very old one. They've been found in the tombs of the pharaohs and references in Indian Sanskrits and so on. So it's a very, very old fruit. So just to confuse you, I just want to talk about fig growing and Hawke's Bay and how to grow them. We're now the largest fig operation, even after 4 years in New Zealand. We've got 3,500 trees. We want to be 15,000 very quickly, so we are looking for people to consider them. No, I wanted that one. Don't you give them the joke here. Go ahead. And I just want to tell you, just to confuse you, this is a crested prolific fig. You can tell why it is because it is so perfectly round. The fig itself, that one is quite a young fig. That's probably about a quarter the size it will ultimately be. But just to confuse you, the fig is not a fruit at all. This is the branch. This is the trunk of the fig tree. This actually is the branch. Now, in apple terms, and Peter can correct me beautifully, it is actually a fruiting spur, funny enough, although in apple terms it's a little different again. This is there, and the flower is inside the branch. It is actually a flower, not a fruit. Now, just to confuse you, what happens is overseas, but not in New Zealand, in California and in the Mediterranean, there's a thing called a fig wasp, which we're not allowed in New Zealand because it'd be another nasty thing we wouldn't want. It might be something else. And it's like a flying ant. And she goes in there, in the top of the fig, or when the fig's upside down, it's the bottom obviously, and she goes into the flower to go from flower to flower to get picking up pollen and also work out a place to lay her eggs. So Mrs. Wasp finally ends up in here, not in New Zealand, as I said, and lays her eggs inside. There's a little gap when you open a fig in there. And she lays her eggs and promptly dies. So when you get a dried fig, sometimes you'll get a crunchy bit. You've eaten the wasp. So if you think you're vegetarian, you've really got them blown in at that point. But it gets worse for the gentleman. Sorry about this, gentleman. What happens is the eggs hatch, males and female babies, and they do what males and females do in dark places. And then the females have wings and they fly away. Poor old males have no wings. We're gone. We've had one function, and we're another crunchy bit. So it's a really macabre plant. So it's a flower, but in New Zealand it's always infertile because there's nothing to pollinate it unless you want to get a little brush and go in there and you'd really drive yourself nuts. So it's what's called an inverted inflorescent. Inflorescent just means a flower, inverted means it's inside the branch, which just means it's a very, very old plant, extremely old. Now, they came into New Zealand with the missionaries, mainly in Northland, so you find a really big range of fig trees in Northland. And then they came in with the gum diggers from Italy, which is really where the range came from. In New Zealand, there's 80 varieties. We have 24. Worldwide, there are 600 varieties. I can tell about 30, just to look at. But so they are quite interesting to look at. Okay, now we can go to the next one. Of course, they have a biblical thing, as Adam and Eve. We actually bought a lot of these cartoons because we go to the farmer's market. Everybody in the farmer market, the stallholders are very boring, so we put these cartoons up just to liven up the place. But the funny thing is, many young people don't have the biblical background and don't get the joke of Adam and Eve. And those of you who have been close to a fig leaf will know that Adam and Eve must have been wrong because they're sandpaper, I can assure you. Moving on. Okay. Okay, we propagate fig trees and plant propagation up in Napier do a lot for us as well. They do some of the thousands. We sell figs all over New Zealand now, trees. We harvest, we grow, we market, and we have had export into California, which is the only place we can do it. We've got 14 growers now which are growing for us. We give them the specification, plants, so on, and they grow for us. And we guarantee to take them at a guaranteed price, 2 years in advance. And drives our bankers nuts. Richard, I should quickly tell you, he's not our banker, although one day he might be. But so we've just got to finance them through. But the point about that is we're setting up a very small. It will never be significant in New Zealand because it's not a big export crop and so on. Except to the States, it's the only place we can easily send them to. We can't even send them to Australia, although with apples we still can't, despite approval. But it is a small operation in that sense, but it's one that will grow quite fast, and it has quite a good market at this stage. And we have the pack house and the operation there. If we go on to the next slide, thanks, Jan. Let me just remind you what a fig is. That's actually a brown turkey, you can tell because it's nice and brown down here. It's a good fig for processing. It's a nice tasty one, but it's more for processing. The big red figs are the ones that we want for export and for making into jams. We won the Cuisine Award this year with our jams, and which means we've run out of red jam, I might say, because all the big markets have bought it up. We've just picked up an order in the United States, which we have no idea how to fill, because one of the American airlines want our little jams in those 20-gram bottles you have on an aircraft. And we said, yeah, we'll supply you some in the season next year. They said, about April will be fine. We said, yeah, that's no trouble. And the order came in 1 million. We haven't a clue how to do it. But we will. All right. Now, let's have a look at some of the data. You may not be able to read that at the back, I guess. But if I just take you through, this is a hectare, okay? Across the top of years, 1 to 5. Basically, you get 2 years, your plant's growing. You won't get much of a crop. And the costs are basically the trees, which are in here. And you've got to mow. You can't put your sheep in amongst figs because they chew the bark for something. Because figs are full of potassium and selenium. And one of the 2 plants in the world that will take up selenium. There's not a lot of selenium in New Zealand soil anyhow. And these ones will pick up what is there. And so on. Next year, basically, all you're doing is mowing. Which is always fun. And watching your trees grow. And then you start getting it up. Now this is working out, you'll be getting about 8 tonnes of figs a hectare at that stage by year 5. At the current pricing system going through and putting in the harvesting and an overhead cost for your, somewhere here there's an overhead cost. It's in here somewhere. It's a fixed cost and basically you'll be taking in at least 20,000 a hectare. Now that is a fig tree that you can pick from the ground. Okay, you've pruned it, if you let a fig tree grow, it'll grow to 8 metres all round. You can pick it, but you'll need hydro ladders or something fairly off to get up there, and it's not recommended. But if you keep them pruned, keep them in the ground and grow them, that's what you'll get, and you'll be getting between 15 and 20k tree. Now, other trees you'll get more, obviously, but here there is no spraying. Nothing eats a fig tree, apart from birds. They only eat fruit. They don't have any known diseases anywhere. And the great thing is you do not have to have sprayers, tractors and all that other paraphernalia and all the nasty stuff that go on fig trees. These are spray free and you could be organic if you can get your soil right. Our home orchard, we can't be organic, not because we don't try, but they grew asparagus in the 1960s on our site and we've still got DDT. Fortunately, it's not picked up by the trees, but it can't grow fruit, ground crops. So, and that's a lot of Hawke's Bay, unfortunately, is in that position. So what this is the sort of general shape of what it is. Your overall will be 32 and your net is about 20. If we go on to the next one, it shows you the... so basically, you've got your revenue line coming through here, year 1 to 5. Your variable costs, these are your mowing, your harvesting costs and so on. These are your fixed costs. It's in this slide, that's where I write. And that's your rates and so on. Now, it may be negligible where you are. This is insurance and whatever, so that may be almost nothing, maybe $50, maybe $500, not $3,000. I put it in a high scenario, and you come through and you start getting your cumulative, that's your cumulative number, and your total one is between these two basically. We're getting on our trees, year 5, on some of them, on a prune level, we're actually getting 30 kilograms per tree. So these are all set up at 15, so you can double it. But it's how you prune it and so on. And your pruning takes you a weekend, a year. You just go through with a chainsaw. Well, you're a little bit of a chainsaw. But basically, what happens with a fig, unlike other fruit, a fig, you get a very small crop off last year's wood. But if you don't want, it's called the braver crop, but not all fig cultivars give you a braver crop, only some do. I'll come back to a story about that in a moment. Your main crop is on current year's wood, and you let it grow up to 6 figs and tip it. That means you get bigger figs. So you take it back to that base wood. That's what I'm saying, and then it'll grow again. I don't know how the hell it does it. I'm not at all knowledgeable about it. What I'm saying is it happens, and every year. And people say, well, can you grow figs? I just check if they can grow weeds. If you grow weeds, you grow figs. In fact, once you've got them for a very long time unless you really hook them out. So what I'm saying is it can work. We're actually managing to get this now, and we do cut them down, and you can come and look at our property anytime you like, and you'll see that they are very, very low, spaced out. We grow ours horizontally 2 metres out. So the trunk up there, a metre each way, like that, and then the wood just comes up like a thicket, and you just keep them away from each other, you just prune them out like that, and so on. The other one is when you pick them, unlike some fruit where you go through and pick a big pick over 2 or 3 days and you're finished, or you go back to a second pick later, with figs, because of each cultivar being being a flower, not a fruit, you get one there, one there, one there. So you've got to pick over about a month's period, a couple of hours a day if you've got a hectare. So it's something you can do after school or whatever, but you have to pick every day for that period. And you have to then get it into a cooler arrangement. And in the case of the ones we've got picking, the deal is that we will go around at 5 o'clock each night and collect them into the chill truck. So we remove them off your site. We provide the crates, we provide the liners, and we remove them to our property. I put in there freight, one of the others freight to us, but it's going to be the other way around, we'll pick it up. Because we want to get the fruit in good condition. 2 types of condition. One is premium fresh, goes into the local market or the national market. The other one is processed grade. So virtually everything except bird pecks is taken away from us. We'll chill, we'll freeze them off for jams and so on. So it's a relatively straightforward process fix in this part of the world. They are very fragile. You can't pick a fig except in a single tray. Anybody who pick up a fig, you'll know how fragile they are. And so you can't put them in big pots, like you would an apple or something like that. You've got to single tray them and so on, and what have you. If you leave them outside, the birds will have a go at them, as you all know. And there's 2 or 3 different ways of managing. One, you can completely cage them, which is what we do. But a bird will still get it. It doesn't matter what you do, a bird will still somehow get it, and you have to chase the darn thing out. If, however, they're growing outside, there is several ways of handling it. One is, because figs have different cultivars, if you've got a cultivar like that brown turkey and it goes from green to brown, the birds work it out. It's a bit like cherries that go red, or apples, what have you. However, if you grow the green cultivars red inside, they stay green on the outside. The birds never quite know what's the right time. They pick up a bit of the smell of them, but that actually works better. Similarly, like grapes, if you've got a line of fig trees, they'll go at the ends. They hardly go into the middle. They prefer to be able to get away. Or the third one you do, and some people do, is they cover them with CD-ROMs. Don't ask me the science, because I don't think there's any science behind it. But if your partner's got a lot of CD-ROMs you don't like, that's one way of managing that problem and also sticking them up there. They look silly, but somehow some people, until the birds get used to that, they tend to work. I mean, or bird guns and so on. But you will lose 20% of your crop if you leave them outside. And frankly, the birds need something. But the point is that you will get still a decent crop off. We go to a number of trees which are big old trees, and we buy the fix off them. We'll take those that we can reach. We won't bring ladders in. And still there's a big crop comes off them. They are prolific things, fix. And they go and go. Somebody else today said, well, how long do they last? You have to pull them out after every 15 years. I said, well, fix tend to last about 700 or 800 years. Probably outlast most of us. Okay? So some of these old figs are just magnificent that are around. They are so beautiful, so sweet. And we know about 200 of them, and we've taken cuttings from many. But we still find more all the time that are just magnificent. And I just heard some, maybe at Mahi or something, so I've got a little trip to Mahi and have a look at something. So there's things. Anyway, let's have a look at the next one. I think it's just, okay, this is just the sensitivity to yield. This is the, at 5, that's about a 3-year-old, going up to a 5-year-old tree. You're getting 8 tonnes a hectare, at 15 kilograms a tree. This is at $3 and $5 a kilogram paid out. You don't have any of the overhead basically apart from growing the tree, and that's what you get per hectare net. As I say, we're getting double that per hectare, but I prefer it to be conservative, and I prefer people to work on a lower number than an upper number all the time, because frankly, there's all sorts of parameters. If you had a horrible wet autumn like we had this season, it is more difficult. Frosts at the moment are affecting the fig trees, but because it's an autumn crop, they've got plenty of time to recover, because what happens if it's a young tree like that, it will kill it. That's why you don't put them out until March, actually. If it's a tree that's a bit older, it'll take the top, you'll get a bit of dieback, but there's 10 buds sitting here, and away they go again. And so you'll lose a few leaves that are coming out now, but there's more leaves inside. Very hard to kill it with frost. They grow in central Otago in the snow, and you still get a good crop. But it depends on the cultivar. Like we've got people at Pukawa who are growing figs for us. They're using what we call white fig cultivars, which work better than the red fig ones, because they're actually ones more prone to cope with that cooler climates. Further north in the Bay of Plenty, we've just put red figs in, because that's the ones that have got like a bomb. They really are working well. They're relatively frost-free, but it's not a problem. So figs are quite easy to do in that sense. And the final slide. I could just advertise that. That's just advertising. Just to point it. I mean, figs are quite expensive. We pay relatively high. We're paying $5 a kilo to a grower, guaranteed for premium. This is the most expensive jam in New Zealand by $2 or $3. It's fig jam. It's beautiful. You'll be reassured I don't actually make it myself. We cannot keep up with demand, even though it's incredibly expensive. It is easily by the most expensive jam. If you want to waste your money, go and buy one. No, it's actually no. If you want it fixed. But all I'm saying is there's a reasonable market going forward, so we're feeling fairly confident about that. And as we grow it under the giant, why not? Anyhow, that's the story of figs. If anybody's interested, Jan and Shona obviously will talk to you. If people want to come over and have a look at how we grow, I'll be delighted to show you and talk about it. What we say to people is don't go out and try and grow all figs. That would not be a good idea either, just like anything. If part of your idea is to bring figs in, say a hectare or even half a hectare, the minimum is about 100 trees to make it worthwhile you're putting anything in it. Add it into the mix. It's actually a good thing. And the other one is you are picking March, April, early May. So if you've got a front-end crop like we've got summer fruit, it makes a lot of sense. So we're actually growing cherries in late November. Just confusion. We're growing nectarines in late November. We have some very early nectarines. And then we're growing cherries through December, early January. And the first of the braver crops, that's the crop on last year's wood, is coming in January. There's about a 3-week gap. before the main crop starts through to May. And that's because we're growing different cultivars and they come out at different times. And we set that up. So you say, oh, you only want to pick in March, we can virtually give you a fig that'll be ready in March. If you want to say you want to pick from February to May, we'll give you 3 different varieties. You see what I mean? It actually is quite good. And you can pick to your timing. If you say, well, I only want to spend an hour a day, we can show you how to do that. It's actually, it's an interesting plant, like, you know, because there's so many varieties, it's quite easy to do. And the market responds quite well. And but the bulk of it sits about March, April forward, because that's the autumn crop. And you can manage it. Like last year, the season just gone, because it was so difficult, because it went hot, cold, and so on. We put Extend Day, which is that white plastic stuff. We put it into the orchard for 5 months, and all the people that planted food or whatever they are up the road, they came round and said, "You can't do that. You know that's terrible. You can't leave it for 5 months. You'll kill everything in sight." Well, actually, we had the best crop of figs ever. So, I mean, nobody has any knowledge of figs in New Zealand, unfortunately. DSIR stopped investigating in the 1970s when they decided it wasn't going to be a commercial crop. And it's not like, you know, our main commercial crops, apples or even avocados coming on now, but it'll be a nice small niche crop. And niche is what Hawke's Bay is really good at. And people say, well, how do you eat a fig? And what do you know? Well, we go from a white fig through to a fig inside that's almost black. And we say, think of it like wine. This is your Pinot Gris, this is your Malbec, and you've got everything in between. And normally when we're selling figs, we have 10 different figs out. And we say, well, what is your wine taste? Go and put your fig with that. And of course, it really is quite interesting to take people through a fig tasting in a row. So our big markets in that sense are the restaurants. People just can't get enough. Obviously processing like this, where we've got all sorts of orders coming through. But then there's people beginning to learn how to grow figs. And we give, well, we don't sell fig plants to people because we want them to grow them and then they'll come and buy more. But the other side is we're trying to get the recipes of the old people who know how to, you know, have done fig recipes, and we're setting out to do that, getting Grandma's recipe, if you like, and we're going to publish a book. It will probably be an app in these modern terms, sell an app or something, and the profits go save the children or something like that. And so people get used to dealing with things because we've just forgotten how to do it. It's just too, it's, you know, it seems to be old-fashioned, and I think it's now coming back. And they tell me on the Master Chef or whatever it is, there's a lot of figs leaves in those areas. I never watched those programs, but it's really good. Anyhow, that's my bit. Any questions or comments? Or people got fig stories?
Yeah, climate. Where this, what types of places would you suitable to grow these fig trees?
Pretty much you can get a cultivar that will grow anywhere from Northland to central Otago. So you can grow them everywhere, is the simple answer.
Snowy areas?
Yep, we've got figs growing, they tell me 3,000 feet inland here, up on north-facing hills. They prefer as much sunshine as you can, and they don't like a lot of wind. So you have to protect it from the south, you know, shelter belt or something. And it's big, really because there's big leaves. They have huge leaves and they batter the fruit and it damages it. But if you're in the Mediterranean climate or somewhere down here, you grow what we call Granora blacks or Adriatics. If you grow further inland and higher, you'll grow French sugars or brown turkeys, which are the white figs. They tolerate cold climates better. But what we do is we go and look at the site, talk about what you know about your site and say, well, we think this is the one that will do best. And to date, touch wood, we've been pretty good like that. Yeah, it's a versatile crop because there's so many cultivars. It's not like, well, I can't think of Fijars, there may be hundreds of Fijars for all I know, but I mean, if you can fit it around where you are. But it won't grow in it won't easily grow in Wellington, for example, facing south on a hillside full of wind. Your chances are zero.
Soil type for figs?
Sorry?
The soil type for your figs?
Soil type. They grow quite variably. The best place is on Bluff Hill, where it's limestone. They like it. We're growing them on the plains in, it's not called Class 1 soils, but it used to be called Class 1, the very best soils, which are actually too good for them. Their origin is in the back of Iraq, in a semi-desert. So they're pretty versatile. What we do in our one, because we've got no stones at all, it's good free draining soil, it's right on the karamu. We put a brick underneath it when we plant them, because we want it to suffer a bit. So, very versatile. They don't like wet feet, that's one thing, and clay pans are awkward, but not impossible, depending how far you go before you hit the clay. The reason for that is there's no taproot or anything, they grow that way with their roots. They're fibrous roots, and they go miles, so that's why they need a bit of water to start with. If you can, if you've got a reasonable rainfall, it doesn't matter, but if you're in a dry area, you need to get water to them when they're young. But up to 2 years, you don't water them. Their roots are so good, and that's their natural habitat. So again, we can talk about that, because there's some things work better in some soils than others. But generally speaking, soil's not an issue. You don't feed them, you ignore them.
You talk about cutting them off with the chainsaw. Is this sort of like similar to the boysenberries, what you're doing there?
Yeah. You don't cut them right down, but you can cut them down and they'll still grow. In Japan, they grow them up about that high off the ground, and then they grow 2 trunks along, and they get this thick, and they cut them off to the trunk every year, because they want the crop growing there, because it's the new growth is where the crop is. Now, we grow, as I say, ours come up about 500, and then they go sideways, and then we cut them off to that height. We are beginning to grow some, a bit like the Japanese, like a grapevine, and I think that will work too. The advantage of that is my 550 trees a hectare, you could probably increase that. I'll tell you a horrible story about it. I thought, I'm going to increase the intensification, because we've only got a small block, we're on the home block. I'm going to increase the intensification, so I put them at 42 inches apart, because that's where the mower is. I had a 42-inch wide mower. I thought, brilliant. And then I changed my mower. Can't get the darn thing down. So I had to buy 2 mowers. It's a stupid thing. So the problem with that also is because the leaves are beginning to shade each other. So I think I've got them too close, is a simple answer. But you can grow them like grapes. But you have to fence them in that case, because the weight of that trunk is so big. You need to manage it. But we can show you all those things, and you take your own choice. We don't tell you how to grow them in that sense. We give you advice. It's your choice whether you want to grow them as full trees, whether you want to grow them on trellises like effectively we do, whether you want to grow them as grapes, or whether you just want to grow 100. It doesn't really matter, fairly random, because you will still get a crop. You won't get you won't maximise it like some other ways. So it's what you want to do, and what fits you, and what fits your family, and how you want to run it. We pick using our family. We've got Callan's parents on our property. We moved them up to Christchurch. They ended up being our pickers. No, they're in their 80s. They just love going out there. And they're 2 hours, which I say I would take, they take all day. I actually think because they're getting paid by the hour, there's a bit of something in here. I haven't worked that one out.
So do you link up with other growers around
There's
the
very
world?
few. There's only 6 commercial growers in New Zealand.
Outside of New Zealand?
Outside, yes, we have a lot of contact with Australia and America. They grow a lot for dried. We don't. We have big dryers. We've imported a number of big dryers, and we'll get a dried fig this year. Last year we couldn't get one to work. Well, we couldn't get one we were happy to work. We're using it this year in processed stuff, but we wouldn't sell it yet. But we think we've got it. What happens is in America they have fig farms, 300 or 400 hectares of figs. And they let the fig, and their one is Black Mission, which is a bit like Brenora Black in New Zealand terms, it falls on the ground. And then they have these big hoovers, like combine harvesters, that pick up the figs. And then they take them away to be further dried. In New Zealand, under GAP, if it hits the ground, you don't touch it. And that's our rule. So they've got different approaches to these things. And of course in Turkey, they let it hit the ground and then they pick it up because labour is relatively cheap, and they put it on the road to dry. So you can imagine when the car drives down, what happens is a real mess. So to be fair, there's others who are absolutely meeting all the ISO standards, but we're just starting out. It's too early. But we talk, and the little group of growers who are around here, we do talk about it, but many of them it's very early days for them. A bit like us. We're learning by trial and error, and I can tell you the list of errors is bigger than the actual outcomes. But because nobody's studying it, we we've got planted food involved, but at a very, very minor level because it's a commercial thing to them, and frankly, we haven't got the money to put into it yet. But I think it will remain a small niche crop, added value around the edges. And a number of the people that are coming to us have lifestyle blocks, which have just got the horse, and the kids are gone, and the horse is still eating its head off, you see. So they say, oh, we'll put the back paddock into figs, which they plant out, they just mow, they've got to deal with the paddock somehow. And then ultimately they'll get a small crop, which is helpful to pay for their schooling or university or, frankly, pin money.
So basically we just become a sort of like a supplier to you.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're looking at buying another orchard up in Bay of Plenty, which would be quite a big operation, because one of the problems with Hawke's Bay with small crops like this, you've got to get closer to your main market, and Bay of Plenty to Auckland is faster than here. But this will be our processing area, we think, and Auckland Airport is where the exports go. You know, and it's a heck of a problem because our exporting will be flying out. The distance cost thing from here, because you can't get airport containers in the planes here. You've got to get it out there, then put it in the container in Auckland, because our planes are too small for the, that big aluminium container that they put on the plane. But we'll solve it, because there are other people who've got with different crops who've got a similar problem.
Well, the export variety, what's the shelf life?
Now, there's a trick. Shelf life of figs is very short. But what we do is we're looking at some post-harvest things. There are some techniques where you can actually put post-harvest, and you can go from 7 days, which is roughly the shelf life of the fig. You can actually get it out to a month, and that's not using chemicals. That's just using good processes around post-harvest. Now, Plant Food are helping us out of Auckland with that one. But by the time you get on the aircraft, get it up there, it's still only 3 days. So you've got, if we can get it 14 days in market, we'll be doing okay. But that's the maximum. And after that, it's a dead fig, that's for sure. It's mush. What you can is you can freeze figs, and you can bring them back, but they won't come back as perfect figs, obviously, and you can use them in different processes, and particularly for restaurants who are using them in bakes, things like that. The point about it's a fig, it is a health food, and I can say that about anything, but I mean it's well known. It's got how do I put this carefully? It's got laxative properties. So there's some advantage as the population gets older, put it that way. We're looking at nutraceuticals as well, but that'll be the really rumpeting figs that we'll put through as a nutraceutical, and working with the Chinese market on that, which is a big market. If we hit that one, then we'll never have enough figs in New Zealand for it. But that's 2 years away, and our investment will probably be a couple $100,000 before we can get through to that. So that's on the business plan somewhere. It's not here at the moment, I can tell you, but it's a potential one.
Sure, that's lovely, Kuriro, thank you. 2 questions for me, and I don't know if I heard you correctly, but did you say you can only export into California for 2 years?
Yeah,
quite understand that, and I wondered what that's about. And my second question is the fig jam made in the Bay?
Yes to the second one, absolutely. It's made at 205 Napier Road, and we have a commercial kitchen in there. That's where it's made. And we also make the fig and almond log and several other products there. Yeah. So we're ramping up production on that. We'll be recruiting shortly, so we'll start to do it. In terms of California, it's the only place we've got a protocol to export. Somewhere along the line, somebody did that years ago, because it takes a long time to get an export protocol. And about 2 years it takes to get it. And somebody did it in the 1970s, so we've still got it. So we've sent a couple of trial shipments into California, and it arrives just before their figs start, their first crop of figs. So it's a perfect little match for that market, and a very, very high value match. That's why I can justify air freight. The indication is that we can send quite a lot up there if we get that timing right every time. Now, it's no guarantee we'll do that, but that's a reasonable market for us. I won't tell you what the price is that we can get up there, but it is at the moment quite attractive to do it and justify it. But it's mainly into the restaurant market for America, for California. That was sort of big money in America, despite other issues that we know about. We can't develop that any further right at the moment because we simply don't have the figs. And that's our difficulty, because we have a desire to service the New Zealand market first if we can, although the American one will give us higher value, but you have to be that much more careful, and the post-harvest handling is that much more complicated.
And you're exploring other export pathways?
Not at the moment, because we have to get a protocol, and that takes 2 years and about $50,000.
If you were, where would you be looking?
Well, it'll be a similar market like that to California, probably Japan. Yeah, Japanese, I mean, figs are not really a Japanese product at all, if you think about it, because it comes from the Middle East, really. But the Japanese like the health property. I mean, they're very conscious about what food is and how they manage food, and the health properties of figs are really good. The Chinese are interested, but not really as fresh figs. They're a bit sort of pushed around by the dried fig. We get that a lot. You know, oh, I love a dried fig. And we think, why would you like a dried fig when you can have a fresh fig? You know. So the Chinese are interested in nutraceuticals. We've done quite a bit of market testing. NZTD's done for us. The Chinese actually, interestingly enough, because I was just telling you, a fig is a flower, not a fruit. The Chinese, in Chinese, is called a no-flower fruit. Very common. But there is a market there as well. But frankly, in the foreseeable future, just between New Zealand and if we can export to the States, we will have all the market we need, to be quite honest. It would be lovely to say that we're going to go from, you know, a few hundred tonnes to thousands of tonnes, but the reality is I don't think so. Unless everybody in the room is prepared to grow figs, and we all will have to start taking some risks on market at that stage, then it would be quite hard to do. But not impossible over time. But you know, the funny thing is, why? I mean, we've got to say, why has nobody done this before? And somebody obviously did it in the 70s and got a protocol. And there are, as I say, there's half a dozen other fig growers, 2 of which export out of just South Auckland. But why is this crop been missing, except as a backyard crop? I mean, I don't know the answer to that either. But at my age, to be starting to try and develop it is an interesting sort of possibility. But I keep saying to kids, this is going to be your legacy, you know, and they keep saying, "Oh, get real," you know. We're too busy doing other things, but maybe one day.
Do you have formal contract?
Yeah, we have it. It's an informal formal contract. Yeah, we have standards and we have protocols that we get the fee for, and we just do it by an agreement by a leaser that we will buy and they will sell. I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody decided not to sell to us, are we going to sue them? We're going to hear. It's not as hard as that. We're not. I won't mention certain companies that do that in other industries. But equally, we guarantee our word is our guarantee that we tell people what the price is 2 years in advance. So it's a rolling 2 years. So we can tell you the price 2 years from now, and next year we'll tell it to you 2 years from then. We don't see it will be changing much from what we've got now, because we do want the things. And it's a reasonable price compared to some others, put it that way.
Is it worth putting them in an area prone to high winds?
Only if you can manage the high winds. Yeah, like shelter belts or whatever. If you can manage that. I mean, people are growing them in Wellington, but not commercially. One of the best fig operations is in the Mangaroa Valley out of Upper Hutt. And you couldn't get a more cold, windy place than that. Our family farmed there for years. And they're growing quite well. But it's got little thickets behind it and so on. So, I mean, it's if you know your land, you can manage it. That's my attitude.
What is the life cycle of those?
Well, a fig you'll be getting a crop in 3 years. By year 2 you'll get a very small crop. Year 3 you'll get a good crop. Year 4 and 5 you're in full production, and it'll last 600 or 700 years.
I think it's a really great idea. And I think it's something that those of us here really need to take on board and get our trustees of some of our land lots where they can start thinking outside the square. And what they're doing at the moment is not good, but that's a great idea.
We can come and have a look anyhow.
Yeah.
Your trustees are more well through Shona and Jan. Come and have a look. But as I said, don't put all your figs in one basket using the whole thing. Think about other crops as well, but get a decent number to get going. Because, but it's great. I mean, my kids the last 5 years living back on from university, and that's how they've come up. You know, growing, and hopefully the grandchildren do that. You know,
Do they have to, like, they don't die out and you have to replant them again, or just
very hard to kill. Once the fig's established, very hard to kill it. Yeah, you can pull it out of the ground with a machine, of course, like you do an apple tree, but no, fig trees just don't die. They're here for millennium, literally. I mean, I've seen a fig tree that they claim is 2,000 years old. I can't say that's true. I don't know.
One of the
But I mean, you go and see some of the big northern ones; they're huge. But around here, there's some. I've been. There's one in Plessy Street in Havelock North. At 7. You go and have a look at it. That's a beautiful tree, and it's still in great production. Anyway, I'm taking Peter's time. So, thank you, Jen. Oh, we're in Napier Road, Havelock. We're at the Figgery there, 205. You'll see the Figgery. We're open on Saturday selling, so you can come in any time, and I'm usually there. Well, Helen is. We have to take you through. But probably you guys will organise it, won't you? Or fill in your bit of paper or whatever you do. And we're happy to.